My name is Kenya Matthews. I am 32 years old. I work as a criminal defense attorney. I have spent many years inside courtrooms. I have argued cases. I have questioned witnesses. I have faced people who did terrible things. I have learned how criminals think. I have learned how abusers hide behind charm. I have learned how fear can trap a person. I never believed that my own family would become my hardest case. A few days ago, my twin sister came into my office. She did not call first. She did not text. She just appeared. When my assistant told me she was there, I felt a strange worry before I even opened the door. I thought maybe she was sick. I thought maybe my niece was hurt. I thought maybe there was an accident. I did not expect what I saw. She walked in wearing clothes that did not match the weather. She wore long sleeves and a high collar. She wore sunglasses even though we were indoors. She moved like every step hurt. She was limping and holding her side. Her hands were shaking. She looked smaller than I remembered. She looked like someone who had been living under a heavy weight for a long time. This was my sister. This was Kesha. She is my identical twin. We share the same face. We share the same voice. We share the same manner. Even our own parents used to confuse us when we were young. When we were children, we used it like a joke. We switched places at school. We played pranks. We laughed at how easy it was. We were inseparable then. We felt like two halves of one whole. Our mother used to say that we were two pieces of the same soul. As adults, our lives split. I went to law school. I moved to the city. I chased my career. I worked long hours. I took hard cases. I fought to become respected. Kesha stayed closer to home. She became a teacher. She wanted a calm life. She wanted a family. She wanted peace. She wanted normal days. That is when Marcus Johnson came into her life. At first, he looked perfect. He had a good job. He had decent money. He had a smooth smile. He had manners that made people relax. He opened doors and made promises. At their wedding, he gave a speech that sounded like a dream. He spoke about loving her forever. He spoke about protecting her. He spoke about making her happy. I watched my sister in her wedding dress. I saw hope on her face. I believed she was safe. I believed she was chosen by a good man. I was wrong. After she got married, the distance between us grew. At first, I told myself it was normal. She had a husband now. Then she had a baby. My niece Aaliyah was born. I had work that never slowed down. We went from daily calls to weekly calls. Then less. Then only on special dates. Each time I saw her, she seemed quieter. She seemed dimmer. Her laughter became rare. Her eyes stopped shining the way they used to. I told myself it was marriage. I told myself it was motherhood. I told myself people change. I told myself a lot of excuses because the truth was too painful. The truth was that my sister was being damaged while I was not paying attention. When she stood in my office that day, I asked what happened. She did not answer right away. She stood there trembling. I locked my door because I knew this needed privacy. I asked her to remove her sunglasses. She shook her head and began to cry. Then I saw bruises on her neck. They looked like fingerprints. They looked like someone had wrapped a hand around her throat. My stomach turned cold. I removed the sunglasses myself. I wish I had not. Her face was badly swollen. One eye was almost closed. The skin around it was dark and deep with bruising. Her lip was split and stained with dried blood. There was a cut on her cheek that looked like it needed medical care. The worst part was her expression. One eye stared at me with emptiness. It was like she had left her own body and only the shell remained. I asked who did this. I knew the answer before she spoke. Only one person lives close enough to do this and hide it. Only one person has that access. She whispered that it was Marcus. She begged me not to call the police. She said he would kill her if she told anyone. She said he promised he would kill her. I told her to roll up her sleeves. I did not ask gently. I used my courtroom voice. The voice that makes people stop lying. She hesitated. That hesitation broke my heart because it showed she had learned fear as a habit. I raised her sleeves myself. Her arms were covered in bruises. Some were old and fading. Some were new and dark. There were marks that looked like she had been hit with something. There were burns that looked like someone pressed heat against her skin. Her hands showed signs of trying to block blows. Her wrists had marks that looked like rope. It looked like she had been tied. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Not in a calm way. Not in a slow way. It broke open like glass. I felt rage. I felt shame. I felt guilt. I felt the need to protect her with everything I had. This was not a client. This was not a file. This was my twin. This was my family. I asked how long it had been happening. She said 3 years. It began months after the wedding. 3 years of fear. 3 years of pain. 3 years and I did not know. I did not see. I did not stop it. I told her to tell me everything. I needed to know what kind of monster we were dealing with. She spoke slowly at first. Then the story poured out. She said it started with control that pretended to be love. Marcus wanted to know where she was at all times. He asked who she spoke to. He asked what she did. He claimed it was because he cared. Then he began criticizing her clothes. He said she looked like she wanted attention. He pushed her to dress differently. She did. Then he attacked her friendships. He said her friends were bad for the marriage. He said they wanted to break them apart. He pushed her away from them. She stopped seeing them. Then he turned her against me. He told her I made her feel small. He said my career made her feel ashamed. He claimed I was showing off. That was not true. But he said it until it became a shadow in her mind. She stopped calling me. She stopped visiting. He isolated her and I let it happen because I was busy and blind. The first time he hit her was over something small. She forgot to do a household task. He came home drunk. He snapped. He grabbed her by the hair. He dragged her. He slammed her face into something hard. He insulted her. He treated her like trash. The next day he apologized. He brought flowers. He cried. He promised it would never happen again. She wanted to believe him. She believed him. It happened again. And again. He drank more. He gambled. He lost money and blamed her. He came home angry and used her as the place to dump his rage. When work went badly, she paid. When he felt disrespected, she paid. When his ego bruised, she paid. Then his family joined the cruelty. His mother moved into the home and the abuse became worse. His mother did not protect my sister. She attacked her in a different way. She criticized everything. She mocked her cooking. She mocked her cleaning. She mocked her parenting. She treated her like a servant. She spoke like my sister was nothing even though my sister worked full-time and cared for a child. Marcus allowed it. Marcus enjoyed it. Then Marcus' sister joined too. She moved in and acted like a queen. She demanded food. She demanded cleaning. She demanded laundry. If my sister refused, she ran to Marcus. Marcus punished my sister for disrespecting his family. My sister was trapped by 3 people working together. A system built to break her. Then my sister told me something that made my vision go red. Marcus hurt Aaliyah. My niece is a small child. She cried because she was scared. Marcus shouted at her. When she could not stop crying, he hit her. My sister tried to protect her. Marcus grabbed my sister by the throat. He choked her until she could not breathe. He slammed her head again and again. His mother and sister watched. Then they joined. They held her down. They hurt her. They tried to silence her. When my sister said this, she looked like she was about to collapse. She whispered that she could not do it anymore. She tried to leave before, but Marcus found her. He dragged her back. He threatened to kill her if she took the child. She believed him. She believed he would do it. She came to me because she had nowhere else. I looked at her and saw what years of abuse does. It steals the person. It leaves fear in their place. My sister used to be bright. She used to be brave in her own gentle way. Now she looked like a ghost. I told her she would not have to live like this anymore. I told her to give me a few days. I told her I would make sure he never touched her again. She stared at me like I had lost my mind. She said Marcus was dangerous. She said he would hurt me. She begged me not to do something reckless. But I was already planning. We are identical. We can switch places. People cannot tell us apart. I told her she would stay safe with me. I would go to her house pretending to be her. I would face Marcus. I would face his mother and his sister. I would not do it with fear. I would do it with strategy. I am not like my sister. I look like her. I can copy her voice. I can copy her softness. But inside I am different. I am trained to handle pressure. I have spent years facing hostile people. I have learned to stay calm. I have learned to prepare. I also train my body. I know how to protect myself. I know how to take a hit and how to respond. I did not want violence. But I refused to be helpless. When I entered that house, I felt the weight of it. From outside it looked normal. Inside it felt heavy. It felt like fear lived in the walls. I heard his mother calling for my sister with sharp impatience. I stepped into the role. I lowered my eyes. I made my shoulders small. I used my sister's gentle voice. I said I would start dinner. His mother sat like she owned the place. She criticized. She demanded. She complained. She acted like my sister was late and lazy. I kept my face calm. I watched. I listened. I memorized everything. Then Marcus' sister appeared and demanded snacks and drinks like she was royalty. I did what she asked while studying her expression. I was not there to start a fight for no reason. I was there to understand the shape of the abuse and to end it. Then Aaliyah came down the stairs. Seeing her broke my heart. She looked like a small child trying to disappear. She moved quietly like she was afraid of making sound. She came to me and whispered for her mother. I held her. Her body trembled. A child should not tremble in her own home. In my mind I promised her that it would end. When Marcus came home I smelled alcohol before I saw him. He entered loud and demanding. He shouted for dinner. He acted like a king coming to his court. He looked like the kind of man people trust in public. The kind who smiles at neighbors. The kind who shakes hands and laughs. But I could see the monster behind the suit. I served him dinner. I made it plain on purpose. I wanted to see how small a trigger could be. He took one bite and exploded. He insulted my cooking. His mother joined in. His sister mocked my sister. Marcus moved toward me with that predator posture. He began his speech about working hard and providing. He raised his hand to strike. That is when I stopped him. I caught his wrist. The surprise on his face was instant. He expected my sister to flinch. He expected her to apologize. He expected obedience. He did not expect resistance. I held his wrist long enough to make the message clear. Not tonight. Not anymore. I released him and stepped away. I spoke calmly. I told them to eat. I walked upstairs and put Aaliyah to bed. I read her a story about a girl who saves herself. I wanted her to hear a different kind of story before sleep. Later his mother and sister confronted me in the hallway. They tried to put me back into the old role. They tried to intimidate me with words and then with hands. I did not react like my sister would. I warned them once. Then I spoke with cold clarity. I told them that abuse has consequences. I told them that what they were doing could be proven. I told them they were not untouchable. I did not give them a lecture for fun. I gave them fear because fear was the language they had been using on my sister for years. They backed away. They were shocked. They were not used to my sister speaking with certainty. The next morning Marcus tried a different approach. He wanted control back. He pulled me into a private room. He grabbed my arm with force. He spoke close to my face. He demanded respect. He told me I belonged to him. He squeezed harder. He wanted pain to teach obedience. I stayed calm. I let him show who he was. I wanted his threats clear. I wanted proof of his behavior. I wanted the world to see him the way my sister saw him every day. When he tried to escalate, I used his movement against him and put distance between us. I did not chase him. I did not scream. I simply made sure he understood that the old pattern was broken. Marcus then tried to use the system. He called the police. Abusers often do that when control slips. They want the victim to look unstable. They want the authorities to become another weapon. When officers arrived, he performed. He claimed I attacked him. He claimed I was dangerous. He claimed he was afraid. I spoke calmly and showed them the history of harm. I showed them how long it had been going on. I showed them evidence of injuries. I showed them that this was not one argument. This was a pattern. The officers took it seriously. They warned him. They made it clear that he was being watched now. They left, and Marcus realized he could not easily use the law as a shield in that moment. That made his family more desperate. His sister brought in someone to intimidate me. A large man who believed he could scare a woman with size alone. He tried to threaten me. He stepped toward me like I would fold. I did not. I moved with control. I protected myself. I made sure he left. The point was not to show off. The point was to end the idea that violence would win. That night I listened to them talk. They were scared. They wanted a new plan. When abusers cannot control with fists, they try control with schemes. They discussed ways to remove my sister from the home. They talked about making her seem unstable. They talked about forcing a medical hold. They talked about taking the child. Hearing them plan to steal Aaliyah away made my blood run cold. It confirmed that their cruelty had no bottom. The next morning they tried to drug me. They tried to make me sleepy so they could call for help and claim a breakdown. They dressed it in fake kindness. They smiled. They acted sweet. I did not fall for it. I pretended. I let them think it worked. I let them reveal their intent. Then I sat up and told them I knew. I told them I had proof of their plan. I told them they were now facing consequences that could crush their lives. Fear filled the room. Their confidence vanished. Then I laid out the truth. They had two paths. One path was criminal accountability for the violence and the schemes and the harm to a child. The other path was to sign legal documents that gave my sister full safety and full custody and strict separation. They had to leave the house. They had to stay away. They had to support the child financially. They had to accept that they had lost control. I did not do this because I love power. I did it because my sister was running out of time. I did it because a child was learning fear as normal. I did it because the system often moves too slowly for someone trapped inside a violent home. I left them to think. I picked up Aaliyah and brought her to my safe place where my sister was waiting. When mother and daughter reunited, it was like watching air return to lungs. Aaliyah hugged her mother and kept touching her face like she needed to confirm she was real. My sister looked lighter even while crying. She looked like hope had returned. Later Marcus called and agreed to sign. His voice sounded empty. He wanted to avoid prison. He wanted the nightmare to end. He finally understood that the game had changed. My sister and I returned to the house together. We walked in side by side. Two identical faces. Two identical voices. The shock on their faces was intense. They realized they had been outplayed. They realized they had been facing someone else. They realized they could not hide behind confusion anymore. My sister spoke calmly. She said her sister saved her. She said the abuse was over. She said she was taking her life back. We placed documents on the table. Marcus signed. He shook while signing. He tried to threaten me with words. I answered with calm certainty. If he wanted to escalate, then the criminal path would open wide. He did not want that. He signed every page. His mother signed agreements to leave and to stay away. She cursed me and called me evil. I told her there is a difference between evil and justice. Evil hurts the weak for pleasure. Justice stops the hurt. His sister signed and looked defeated. When it was done, we left. We walked out of that house together. We left fear behind. We left the prison behind. The next day we returned with official support and made sure the house was empty. We changed locks. We improved safety. We made sure my sister and my niece could breathe without listening for footsteps. Over the following weeks, my sister began to come back to life. She smiled for real. She laughed. She played with her child. She returned to teaching and found joy again. Aaliyah stopped flinching. She stopped shrinking. She began acting like a child should act. She made friends. She drew pictures of herself and her mother smiling. Marcus tried to fight the custody arrangement because abusers hate losing access. But the evidence of violence and danger spoke loudly. A judge can ignore words. A judge cannot ignore clear proof and a pattern of harm. His contact with the child ended. Support payments began. His life became smaller. Good. Let it be smaller. Let the cost be real. People ask me if I regret it. They asked if I regret bending lines. They asked if I regret impersonating my sister in her home. They asked if I regret acting like a vigilante. My answer is no. I have seen how hard it is for victims to get protection. I have seen how abusers twist stories. I have seen how victims are forced to prove pain again and again. I have seen how a piece of paper does not stop a fist. I have seen how leaving can be the most dangerous moment. I do not celebrate violence. I do not encourage anyone to take reckless risks. Many people cannot do what I did and should not try. Safety planning should be done with professionals. Victims deserve real support. They deserve shelters and legal help and safe friends and careful plans. But I will not apologize for saving my sister and protecting my niece. The real victory is not paperwork. The real victory is watching my sister remember who she is. The real victory is seeing a child live without fear. The real victory is breaking a cycle that could have lasted for generations. If anyone hearing this is living in fear right now, please understand this. You deserve safety. You deserve peace. You deserve help. If you can reach a trusted person, then do it. If you can reach a local domestic violence hotline or a shelter, then do it. If you can speak to a lawyer or an advocate, then do it. You are not weak for being trapped. Abuse is built to trap, but escape is possible with support and planning. And if you are watching someone you love change in scary ways, if they start isolating, if they hide bruises, if they wear long sleeves when it makes no sense, if they cancel plans often, if they seem smaller and quieter, do not ignore it. Ask them privately if they are safe. Believe them if they tell you the truth. Offer help without judgment. My name is Kenya Matthews. I am a criminal defense attorney. I did what I did because I love my sister. I did what I did because monsters rely on silence. I did what I did because a child deserved a home without terror. My sister is free now. She is healing. That is worth everything. My name is Kenya Matthews. This is the next part of the same story. I am continuing from the point where my sister Kesha and my niece Aaliyah were safe with me, and the abusers were beginning to understand that control was slipping away from them. After I brought Aaliyah to my place, my sister held her like she was holding air after nearly drowning. Aaliyah wrapped her arms around her mother and refused to let go. She kept touching Kesha's face like she needed proof that her mother was really there and really safe. That small child had learned to doubt safety. She had learned to scan every room for danger. She had learned to shrink. Seeing her do that made me furious again, but I kept my voice gentle because children can feel storms inside adults. Kesha cried quietly while she smiled. She looked tired, but something in her eyes was different. It was not full strength yet, but it was a spark. A spark is how fires start. I told her the worst was almost finished. I told her she would not have to return to that house alone. I told her she would not have to face them without support ever again. Kesha kept asking me what I did. She kept asking if I was safe. She kept asking if Marcus would retaliate. She kept asking if his mother and sister would try something worse. Those questions were not weakness. Those questions were the sound of a mind that had been trained by fear. When someone lives with threats every day, their brain becomes a survival machine. It predicts danger before danger arrives. It makes them doubt calm moments. It makes them expect punishment. I told my sister the truth in simple terms. I said I did what was necessary. I said I did not do anything that would put her or Aaliyah in new danger without a plan. I said I built evidence. I said I set traps for their lies. I said I made it impossible for them to pretend innocence. I told her that fear is strongest when it is private and hidden. I told her that once the truth is documented and shared, the abuser loses the advantage. Abusers thrive in shadows. Evidence is light. That evening I did not allow my sister to go back to the house. I let her rest. I let Aaliyah watch cartoons and eat snacks. I cooked a simple dinner. I kept the home calm. I kept the lights warm. I kept voices soft. I kept the doors locked. I checked windows. I watched the street like a guard. I was not going to let Marcus or anyone else get close. During the night, my sister woke up more than once. I heard her moving. I heard her whispering to Aaliyah. I heard her crying again. I also heard her breathing slow after a while. That slow breathing told me she was finally sleeping. It was not deep, restful sleep yet, but it was sleep that was not forced by exhaustion alone. It was sleep that came from being in a place where no one could walk into the room and start screaming. In the morning, I took Aaliyah to school as usual because routine helps children feel stable. I made sure she ate something. I brushed her hair. I asked her about her favorite cartoons. I kept my face calm and friendly. When we reached the school, I walked her to the door, and I watched her look around like she was expecting someone to grab her. My heart squeezed. I knelt down and told her she was safe. I told her that her mother would pick her up later. I told her that adults are supposed to protect children, and that some adults forget how to be good, but that does not change what children deserve. She nodded. She did not fully relax. But she walked inside. After I returned to my place, I sat with Kesha. I asked her for more details. Not to reopen pain, but to make sure we did not miss anything legally. I asked about dates and patterns and injuries and threats. I asked what Marcus did when he felt challenged. I asked what his mother and sister did when he was not in the room. I asked what weapons were in the house. I asked where important documents were stored. I asked if Marcus had access to Kesha's phone and email. I asked if he tracked her location. I asked if he had friends in law enforcement. I asked if he had family who would help him. Kesha answered as best she could. She said Marcus often checked her phone. She said he demanded passwords. She said he accused her of cheating when she tried to protect privacy. She said he used jealousy as a reason to control her. She said his mother watched her movements like a supervisor. She said his sister mocked her and demanded chores. She said the house felt like a place where she could never rest. I told her we would change everything. New passwords. New phone plan if needed. New email addresses. New locks. New routines. We would assume that Marcus would try to regain power in some way, and we would remove every tool he used. I also told her something important. I told her that leaving is only the first step. Many survivors think the danger ends when they move out. Often the danger changes shape instead. It can become legal abuse. It can become stalking. It can become harassment through family court. It can become pressure from relatives. It can become threats with money. Kesha nodded because she already knew. She had lived it. She tried to leave before and Marcus brought her back. That is why I was not going to rely on hope. I was going to rely on preparation. Later that day my phone rang. Marcus called. His voice sounded hollow. Not strong. Not charming. He was scared. When abusers lose certainty, they often sound like children. He said he would sign whatever papers I wanted. He begged me not to involve prosecutors. He begged me not to ruin his life. It was strange to hear him plead because in my sister's stories he always sounded like a king. I told him we would meet. I gave him a time. I did not threaten him loudly. I did not scream. I spoke like a lawyer who already knows the result. Calm. Firm. Clear. Kesha wanted to come with me. She wanted to see him sign. She wanted to see the moment control broke. That was not revenge. That was closure. Survivors often need to witness the end because their minds have been trained to expect the abuser to escape consequences again. I agreed, but I warned her that it might be emotionally heavy. She said she was ready. When we arrived at the house together, we walked in side by side. Two identical faces. Two identical voices. Two identical bodies. The expressions on Marcus' face and his mother's face and his sister's face changed fast. Confusion. Fear. Disbelief. Then realization. They had been dealing with my sister twin. Not my sister. They had been facing someone who would not submit. Kesha spoke first. Her voice was soft, but it carried strength. She said she was done being hurt. She said she was done being scared. She said she was done being controlled. She said her child would never live in that terror again. Marcus tried to speak. He could not find the right mask quickly enough. He looked at Kesha and then at me and then back at Kesha like he hoped his eyes were lying. Then he looked down at the papers on the table. The papers were prepared. They were clear. They were strict. They removed contact. They gave Kesha custody. They demanded financial support. They demanded distance. They demanded removal from the home. They included orders that would lead to immediate consequences if broken. Marcus picked up the pen with shaking hands. He read some parts. He swallowed. He tried to bargain. He tried to threaten. He said a sentence about wanting to hurt me for this. He said it in a low voice like a warning. I leaned close and told him to try if he wanted. I told him that any attempt would be the excuse I needed to hand everything to the authorities in a way he could not twist. I told him I would not hesitate. I told him he had a choice. He could sign and leave. Or he could refuse and face the full weight of consequences. He signed. He signed every page. Every line. Every initial. He signed like a man signing his own defeat. His mother signed too. She signed a promise to leave. She signed a promise to stay away. She signed a promise not to contact Kesha or Aaliyah. She glared at me while signing. She called me evil. She called me a devil. People like her call any boundary evil because they survive by crossing boundaries. I told her I was not evil. I told her I was justice. Justice stops harm. Evil creates harm. His sister signed without much fight. She looked like someone who wanted to disappear. Bullies often want to run when they meet a wall. When it was done, I placed the documents in my bag. I reminded them of the deadline to leave. I told them I would return with official help to make sure the home was cleared. I told them that if anything disappeared that belonged to Kesha or Aaliyah, there would be consequences. I told them the house was not a place to steal from anymore. We left. On the way back, Kesha did not speak much. She stared out the window. Then she began to shake. The body sometimes reacts after danger passes. People can feel calm and then suddenly feel like they cannot breathe. That is not weakness. That is the nervous system trying to process what it survived. I told her to breathe slowly. I told her to hold my hand. I told her she was safe. At my place, Aaliyah ran to her mother again. She hugged her and asked if they were going home. Kesha smiled and said yes. But the word home was changing. Home would no longer mean the house with fear. Home would mean safety. The next day, I returned at the agreed time with official support. I did not need drama. I needed certainty. The house was empty. Marcus and his mother and sister had left. They took their things. They did not stay to argue. They disappeared because fear now lived in them. I changed every lock. I installed a security system. I added cameras that were visible. I wanted the outside world to see that someone was watching now. Visible protection can stop some problems before they begin. I also helped Kesha change her routines. I advised her not to share location publicly. I advised her to tighten privacy on social media. I advised her to tell the school who is allowed to pick up Aaliyah. I advised her to keep copies of court orders at home and at school. I advised her to keep a safe contact list. I advised her to have a plan if Marcus tried to approach. Kesha listened. She did not argue. She did not say it was too much. She understood what risks look like. She had lived inside risk. She was ready to do the work of staying safe. Over the next weeks, I watched a transformation that felt like watching a flower return after a long winter. At first, Kesha moved carefully around the house like she expected someone to jump out. She jumped at loud noises. She checked windows again and again. She flinched when her phone buzzed. She struggled to sleep. Then slowly the fear loosened. She began to play music. It was quiet at first, then louder. She began to cook because she wanted to, not because she was forced. She began to talk more. She began to laugh at small jokes. She began to breathe deeper. She began to sit on the couch and watch a show without scanning the room every minute. Aaliyah changed too. Children carry fear in the body. They may not have words, but they show it in behavior. She stopped creeping downstairs like a mouse. She began to ask questions more freely. She began to sing. She began to draw pictures. She began to stop flinching when a door closed. She began to sleep through the night more often. The school called once to tell Kesha that Aaliyah seemed more relaxed. The teacher said Aaliyah started raising her hand. She started smiling during recess. Small things that are huge when you understand trauma. But, of course, Marcus tried to push back. Men like him do not accept losing control. Even when they sign agreements, they often look for ways around them. He tried to challenge custody. He tried to claim he deserved access. He tried to paint Kesha as unstable. Abusers often use the same playbook. They accuse the victim of being crazy. They accuse the victim of being vindictive. They cry about fairness while hiding the violence they caused. This time the court did not rely on his story. This time the court had evidence. The injuries. The threats. The recordings. The attempts to scheme. The harm to a child. A judge may ignore one bruise explained away. A judge cannot ignore a pattern. A judge cannot ignore proof of danger. The judge cut his access. The judge removed his ability to approach. The judge ordered support and strict boundaries. The law finally did what it should do. It should protect the vulnerable. Marcus did not like it. He complained. He cursed. He threatened to appeal. But he had no real leverage left. He had signed. He had been recorded. His own actions had trapped him. His mother tried a different approach. She called through mutual acquaintances. She tried to send messages. She tried to act sorry. She tried to pretend she did not know how bad it was. But Kesha did not answer. She did not owe that woman a conversation. Forgiveness is not a requirement. Safety is the requirement. His sister also disappeared. She moved on to another place. Another couch. Another person to exploit. People like her rarely change quickly. They simply find new victims. As time passed, Kesha began taking back pieces of herself. She returned to her classroom and found joy in teaching again. She decorated her home the way she wanted. She made decisions without asking permission. She visited family. She called me more often. We rebuilt our closeness. The gap that opened between us began to close. One evening she told me she felt guilty that I had stepped into danger for her. She said she feared I would get hurt. She said she feared I would lose my career. She said she feared I would be punished for bending rules. I told her something she needed to hear. I said she is not responsible for what an abuser chooses to do. I said the shame belongs to Marcus. I said the guilt belongs to the people who watched and joined. I said she survived. I said survival is not a crime. I said asking for help is not weakness. Then she asked me if she was stupid for staying so long. I told her no. I told her abuse is designed to trap. It starts small. It isolates. It confuses. It mixes kindness with cruelty. It makes a person doubt their own judgment. It makes them believe they are the problem. It makes them fear leaving more than staying. That is not stupidity. That is a trap built by someone who enjoys control. I told her she was brave because she came to me. Coming for help was the first real break in the cycle. Aaliyah also began to speak more openly. One day at a park, she sat near me while she ate ice cream. She looked up and thanked me for saving her mother. She said she used to feel scared all the time. She said she is not scared anymore. Children do not say things like that unless fear was a normal part of their days. Hearing her say it made my chest tighten. I told her I was proud of her. I told her she deserved to feel safe. I told her it is okay to feel happy. That moment explained everything. That is why I did what I did. I did not do it for drama. I did not do it for pride. I did it so a child could be a child. I did it so my sister could live. Some people who hear this story might say I should have called the police earlier. They might say I should have followed normal processes. They might say the system exists for a reason. They might say I took too many risks. I understand that argument. I also know reality. I have worked in the legal world long enough to know that the system can fail victims. Police reports can become paper that does nothing. Restraining orders can be ignored by violent people. Court cases can move slowly. Abusers can charm officials. Abusers can twist narratives. Victims can be punished for speaking up when an abuser returns angrier than before. That is why safety planning matters. That is why evidence matters. That is why support matters. I am not telling anyone to impersonate someone or confront an abuser directly. Many people cannot do that safely. It could get them killed. It could escalate violence. The safe path for most survivors is to contact domestic violence services and create a plan with experts. Shelters and advocates exist for a reason. Legal aid exists for a reason. Friends and family can help when they are careful and informed. But I will tell you this. Silence helps abusers. Silence gives them time. Silence gives them cover. Silence is not neutral. Silence is a side. It is the side that lets harm continue. If you are watching this and you are in a dangerous home, please hear these words. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not to blame. What is happening is not love. Love does not hurt you. Love does not isolate you. Love does not threaten to kill you. Love does not harm your children. Love does not make you shrink. You deserve safety. You deserve help. You deserve a plan. Start with small steps if you must. Save important documents. Save evidence in a safe place. Reach out privately to someone you trust. Call a local hotline when you can do it safely. Tell a doctor. Tell a counselor. Tell a teacher. Tell a neighbor you trust. Tell someone with access to resources. Do not carry it alone. If you are someone watching a friend or a sister fade, pay attention. Ask them privately if they are safe. Do not judge them for staying. Leaving is dangerous. Leaving is complicated. Ask how you can help. Offer a safe place. Offer a ride. Offer childcare. Offer a phone. Offer to store documents. Offer to sit with them while they call an advocate. After all this, my sister Kesha began to build a new life. Not a perfect life. Healing is messy. Some days she felt strong. Some days she cried for no clear reason. Some days she felt angry. Some days she felt numb. That is normal after abuse. The mind and body need time. They need patience. They need kindness. They need support. She began therapy. She joined a support group. She learned the language of boundaries. She learned how to say no without apologizing. She learned how to trust her own instincts again. Aaliyah also got support. She met with a child counselor. She learned that loud voices are not normal. She learned that hitting is wrong. She learned that adults should not scare children. She learned that home is supposed to be a safe place. Little by little the cycle broke. I am Kenya Matthews. I am still a lawyer. I still respect the law. I still believe in due process. But I also believe in protecting people. I believe in using every legal tool available to stop harm. I believe in building strong evidence and refusing to be intimidated. I believe in stepping up when someone you love is drowning.